Hi, everybody. Welcome to Patriot's History. I'm Larry Swikart, co-author of Patriot's History of the United States, and I am your mentor here during this half hour, 40 minutes, whatever we do, of reading Patriot's History of the United States in this final week before the Christmas week. And I will be taking off, obviously, the whole Christmas week and start up again on January 1st or 2nd or whatever the first Monday is after we start up again. In the meantime, it would be hard to get you books by Christmas. I won't lie, I can't do it. But if you're still interested in the Black Friday offers, make sure you buy some books and we'll get them to you right after Christmas. Have 3 great offers. All of them include Patriot's history. One includes my amazing novel about the Battle of Midway called Halsey's Bluff, where the Japanese win. Or think they do at first. Anyway, check that out. You also have my most recent book, Dragon Slayers, and you have in one of the packages my autobiography. I guarantee you would enjoy that once you start reading it. I know you think, what's he got? Well, I've done a lot of crazy stuff in my life. It's been pretty interesting. Met presidents, rock stars, country stars, athletes, just about you name it. And been a lot of places, interesting places. So check it out. It's called The Rhythm of History. It's on the website. You can buy it standalone or you can get it as one of the offers. Also remember, you can get either the VIP package, which includes now 6 video lesson series. One of them is Reagan, the American president, with 21 videos. The current series is Integrity with Winston Churchill, already with 12 videos in it. All the others have anywhere from 3, The Horrible History of Howard Zinn, to 11, which is the 1620 Default, Why the 1619 Project is Wrong. So check those out. That's all part of the VIP, along with my ebook called All Thumbs, How Our Obsession with Cell Phones is Damaging Our Kids. And you get about 40 hours of my Wild Wednesday webcast that I did from 2023 to 2021 to 2023. All right. Or if you want more politics, you can go over to the Wild World of Politics, subscribe to the Insider, and there you're going to get 5 lesson programs, including the most recent, The Patriot's History of Globalism, Globalism Then and Now. So check it out, and you can give these as a gift. Remember, if you want to give a subscription to somebody, all you do is send me an email and tell me who to send it to. All right, well, let's get started. As always, I am reading from the 15th anniversary edition of A Patriot's History of the United States. I will be doing a 20th anniversary edition, 1 extra chapter, and a number of insertions here that will be up around March. Probably make it March. So I'm going to give you a little taste of that new material. There will be insertions throughout. It'll be done in a PDF form. You'll have to watch the PDF and as you read through the book. But here's an example of some of the new material that's going in. This is just having to do with ordinary life. It probably would have been placed a little bit earlier in this chapter or later in last chapter. I have it currently placed at page 198, but it doesn't matter. It can go kind of anywhere in here. Of course, most Americans were not rich, but reasonably happy. Americans lived well, though the style of living horrified British visitors. Quote, to have a mere board to eat on, to drink whiskey or pure water, to sit and sleep under a shed, said one Tory who had fled the United States in 1817. William Cobbett, writing an account of his travels, took note of the conditions he found. While the frontier made for a harder life, on the coast, he listed the food consumed in a year by a family farming 154 acres as follows: 14 fat hogs, 4 oxen, 46 sheep, suckling pigs and hams, eggs from 70 hens, plus geese, ducks, turkeys, and a garden of 3/4 acres, not to mention the butter from 10 cows. Cobbett saw no poverty and no paupers, as he had, quote, only been visited by 2 beggars. This is from Paul Johnson's great book, Birth of the Modern. Average urban Americans already differed greatly from their English cousins in their lifestyle. Their language reflected it as well. New words were produced as rapidly as society could incorporate them, borrowing from other cultures to modify. Cocktail, or to invent altogether. Kentucky breakfast, meaning 3 cocktails and a chaw of tobacco. The Dutch contributed boss. French, Canadians, and Cajuns added depot, rapids, shanty, prairie, cache, and crevasse. The Spanish gave us ranch, lasso, sombrero, patio, corral. The Germans dumb, which was modified as dumb. This is the old Gallagher comedy routine. If you haven't seen that on YouTube, you should watch it. He basically gives you an English lesson. Why English is so hard, right? D-U-M-B, dumb, right? So T-O-M-B, tum, right? No, tomb. So C-O-M-B, coom, right? No, comb. And he goes on. So B-O-M-B, boom, right? No, bomb. It's pretty funny. Slave slang included caucus and mass meeting. Lewis and Clark's expedition produced Indian terms, portage, groundhog, grizzly bear, overnight, overall, rattlesnake, war party, and moose. When Americans did use English words, they did not always employ them in the same way, saying the word help for servant instead of just assist or aid. They added new meanings to English words, snag, stone, to snag something, to stone a person, suit, if it suits you, bar, brand, bluff, knob, creek, and many others. I know here at Wild World History, we have a distinct look and we call it our brand, right? Then there were the phrases, American, not the British, coined the term stiff upper lip. Did you know that? Americans would fly off the handle, get the hang of it, get religion, hear fire and brimstone sermons, have a knockdown fight, insist there were no two ways about it. They would take on a problem, flunk out of school, let on that something was about to happen, or chug-a-lug. Great. Was it Roger Miller that did that song, Chug-a-lug, Chug-a-lug? It makes you want to holler hidey-ho. Burns your tummy, don't you know? Those tendencies not only continued, but grew over time. Women in the 1920s who wore slinky dresses were called flappers. A prestigious law firm was a white shoe professional. Popular music was rock and roll. If someone was fooling you, they were jibing you. A person who was extremely smooth was in the groove, as in a vinyl record. I know you kids don't know what those are. Itself was a slang term. Language exploded in the 1960s with hippies, flower power, drop acid, make love not war, and hard hats. The computer revolution, largely developed in the United States, added data processing, RAMs, memory, as in for a machine, not a human, download, upload, nanosecond, gigabyte, multitasking, and cyberspace. In the early 2000s, comedian George Carlin developed an entire routine called Modern Man, where for 3.5 minutes, he blasted through almost every modernism and still left out many. You've got to see that. This American trait, while not totally unique, was vastly more widespread in the early 1800s than anywhere else in the world, largely due to the democratization of society, but also the practicality of Americans. And I would add that except for Shakespeare himself, probably nobody had ever done as much to expand the language as the Americans. Okay, so we are back to reading. And we're starting on the last paragraph of page 239. And again, if you're in an earlier edition, especially a much earlier edition, the pages aren't going to line up. You'll have to find the isms and work forward from there. Most of the utopians advocated greatly expanded rights, some would say roles, for women. White women had gained property rights within marriage in several Ohio and Mississippi states. Divorce became slightly more prevalent as legal grounds increased, and a woman was awarded custody of children for the first time ever in the precedent-setting New York State court case, Mercine against the People, 1842. At the same time, the emerging Industrial Revolution brought young women work in New England's numerous new textile and manufacturing industries. Jacksonian education reforms and the growth of public schools opened up a new white-collar profession for females, teaching. Steadily, the women's sphere overlapped the men's sphere in economic endeavor. As demand for teachers grew, women began to attend institutions of higher learning. Oberlin, the radical abolitionist college presided over by Charles Grandison Finney, produced America's first female college graduate. And during the Civil War, nursing joined teaching as a profession open to educated women. Women also became involved in social activism through the temperance movement. As wives and mothers, females sometimes bore the brunt of alcoholism of husbands and male family members. The American Society for the Promotion of Temperance was one of the many women's organizations educating the public on the evil of strong drink and seeking its eradication. The Washington Society, an antebellum equivalent of Alcoholics Anonymous, was formed to assist problem drinkers. A single overarching theme emerged, however: solving personal problems through political means. Women helped pass the Maine Law, 1851, which forbade alcohol throughout the entire state. Enforcement proved difficult, yet as society saw the implications of widespread drunkenness, thousands of Americans, including a young Whig named Abraham Lincoln, joined the campaign against demon rum. By 1850, the movement had slashed alcohol consumption by 3/4 in America. All these causes combined to lead women inevitably toward feminism, a religio-socio-political philosophy born at the end of the age of Jackson. Sarah and Angelina Grimke, known as the Grimke sisters, Lucy Stone, Frances Wright, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Lucretia Mott, and others led a small, fiery band of Jacksonian feminists. These women gathered together in Seneca Falls, New York in 1848, where they issued a proclamation, a declaration of sentiments touching on nearly all of the issues. Abortion is the notable exception of today's feminists. They decried the lack of public education, economic opportunities, especially in medicine, law, and the pulpit, legal rights, marital power, and most important, quote, the elective franchise, the right to vote. Quote, the history of mankind is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations on the part of men towards women, they declared, having in direct object their establishment of an absolute tyranny over her. So they were counting, or they were quoting the Declaration of Independence. Now, as is my habit, I read the documents in the Patriot's History Reader relevant to this section. However, and I will read the Seneca Falls Declaration next time, but so we don't break up too much of the rhythm, I want to get through just a couple more paragraphs here today. Abolitionism, the radical belief in the immediate prohibition of slavery, reached fever pitch during the age of Jackson. It is important to distinguish at the outset the difference between abolitionism and those who oppose slavery. Abolitionists wanted to abolish all American slavery immediately without compensation. Anti-slavery politicians like some of the Whigs and Free Soilers, and after 1854, Republicans wanted only to keep slavery out of the Western territories, i.e. and the North, while permitting it to continue in the South. Now, let me just stop there, as we will discuss at length. By the 1830s, abolitionists had figured out the strategy to beat slavery. It would either involve controlling all the territories to the point that before too long they had a 2/3 majority in the House and the Senate and a president, and they would vote to either change the Constitution or vote slavery out of existence. Since it wasn't in the Constitution, remember, slavery, the word does not appear, slave does not appear, it's persons, what was the phrase? Unfree persons or persons bound by labor, something like that. But the word slave doesn't appear. So it's doubtful in my mind that they would have needed a constitutional amendment. Nevertheless, the goal was to do this peaceably by putting such pressure on the South, not allowing the South to expand, continuing to nibble away at the borders, nibble away at the federal government like DC, federal outposts, ports, so on and so forth, until finally the South just cracked and emancipated slaves. Or, and they said this quite early, and the Southerners said the same exact thing, or force the South to where the South wasn't able to expand and thereby perpetuate slavery, and where the South saw that soon slavery would be defined out of existence. That is to say, sooner or later, it was inevitable in American history. Read my lips. Sooner or later, without a war, it was inevitable that courts would decide that slaves were people, not property. And once they did that, the South was either going to free its slaves or there would be a war. Now, both the North and the South anticipated what was going to happen in this war. They both said the same thing. Southerners will lose their slaves in the context of a war because the South would lose. Nobody ever really figured the South had a chance to win a civil war simply because of numbers, manufacturing differences. The only thing they could count on was what many of America's enemies over time have counted on, which is the U.S. would just lose interest, as in Vietnam. But no one thought the South could win the war. And as a result, you can read, and this is a book I'll talk about at length later by James Oakes called Freedom National. And you can read that Southerners and Northerners alike both said, if the South doesn't buckle under to this expansion of freedom throughout the territories, there will be a war. The Southerners will start it. And when they start it, they will lose. And when they lose, they will lose their slaves. This was pretty widespread in the 1830s and 40s already, a sense of inevitability that if we don't figure out a way to get rid of slavery now peaceably, there is going to be a war and we will lose, and we will lose slaves at that point. So I'll get more to this later. Quakers initially brought English abolitionist views to America, where they enjoyed limited popularity in the northern colonies. Revolutionary ideals naturally sparked anti-slavery sentiment, especially in Philadelphia and Boston. As early as 1775, the Society for the Relief of Free Negroes unlawfully held in bondage, that's the name of the society, Society for the Relief of Free Negroes unlawfully held in bondage. So notice what they're doing. They were saying these are people who are unlawfully held. Now, state laws said they were legally held. But what did the Constitution say? Well, it didn't recognize slavery. It just said temporarily a person can be unfree because they owe labor, as in a indentured servant. Did that apply to slaves? Well, we'll see. After the Revolution, the American Colonization Society was formed to advocate freeing and colonizing slaves, sending them back to Liberia in Africa. By the way, these were the first two abolitionist societies in the whole world. Nobody else had this. Now, William Wilberforce in England was already working toward this, but Benjamin Franklin founds the first ever abolitionist society. After the Revolution, the American Colonization Society was formed to advocate freeing and colonizing slaves, sending them back to Liberia and Africa, but the rise of the Cotton Kingdom fueled even more radical views. On January 1, 1831, a Massachusetts evangelical named William Lloyd Garrison published the first issue of The Liberator, calling the slave, quote, a man and a brother, and calling for, quote, his immediate emancipation. The New England Anti-Slavery Society and the American Anti-Slavery Society formed soon hereafter. Garrison, joined by Lewis Tappan, Elijah P. Lovejoy, and Sarah and Angelina Grimke, gained a growing audience for the abolitionist cause. The Grimke sisters were themselves former slaveholders, but when they inherited their father's South Carolina plantation, they freed its black workers, moved north, and joined the Quaker Church. They created a minor sensation as two of the nation's first female lecturers, touring the northern states, vehemently speaking out against the evils of slavery. With the help of his brother Arthur, Lewis Tappan started a dry goods store that dealt in a wide variety of clothes, umbrellas, and hats, all sold strictly for cash. This financed their attempts to clean up New York by establishing a network of Christian spies who informed to them on the whereabouts of brothels, gaming houses, and other illicit enterprises. The Tappans then would seek to close down Satan's workshops. Their lives changed in 1830 when William Lloyd Garrison, fresh out of a Baltimore jail, entered their store and convinced them to apply their religious faith to the cause of abolitionism. Being leaders in the anti-slavery movement, the Tappans put their lives and their business at risk. Tappan money supplied Charles Grandison Finney and his new church, from which he denounced slavery from the pulpit. The Tappans also helped establish Ohio's Oberlin College. When their business took a downward turn, however, partly due to the backlash against abolitionists and partly due to the Panic of 1837, the Tappans offered credit just before going under. Quote, at age 53, Tappan wrote in 1841, I found myself worth nothing. Yet they used their experience to apply their spy network to business and establishing a system of credit reporting using correspondents in various cities, then selling the reports to other businesses. Among their correspondents was a young Springfield attorney, Abraham Lincoln, and Ulysses Grant. Their mercantile agency soon provided enough money for Tappan to retire and dedicate himself to the anti-slavery movement, turning the business over to Robert Graham Dunn, who eventually merged with another partner to create Dunn and Bradstreet, the largest credit reporting agency in the world. Tappan, Finney, and Garrison were central figures in the abolitionist movement, joined also by former slaves who proved powerful anti-slave activists. Frederick Douglass, Sojourner Truth, Solomon Northup, Harriet Tubman, and others brought their own shocking life experiences to the lecture stages and the printed pages of the abolitionist movement. Douglass, the son of a white slave master whom he had never even met, escaped Maryland slavery and headed north as a young man. In his autobiography, My Bondage and My Freedom, Douglass spoke eloquently of the hardships he had endured, how his slave mother had taught him to read, and how he rose from obscurity to become North America's leading Negro spokesman. His story served as a lightning rod for anti-slavery forces. At the same time, Harriet Tubman devoted much of her effort to helping Underground Railroad carry slaves to freedom in the North. Tubman put her own life on the line during a score of secret trips south, risking recapture and even death. The abolitionists succeeded in putting great pressure on major political parties and beginning the long process by which their radical ideas became mainstream ideas in a democracy. Abolitionists succeeded at provoking an imminent and immediate and violent reaction among Southern slaveholders. Georgians offered a $5,000 reward to anyone who would kidnap Garrison and bring him south. Abolitionist Arthur Tappan boasted a $50,000 price on his head. In North and South alike, pro-slavery mobs attacked abolitionist homes and offices, burning their printing presses and threatening and delivering bodily harm. Anti-abolitionist violence culminated in 1837 with the mob murder of Illinois abolitionist Elijah P. Lovejoy. All right, we will stop there. And next time, as I said, I will pick up with a reading of the Seneca Falls Declaration. So I will see you back here next time. Don't forget, I'm turning Patriot's history into a feature film. It's a long process. I need your help. Buy me a coffee at the link on the page. And I'll see you guys back here on Wednesday.